Let's talk about Stifado. Welcome back to Sprung on Food. I'm your host, Kae Sprung. This season, we're talking about favorite foods, the history behind it, and the role it plays in the world today. Joining me today is actor, writer, comedian, and bodega coffee lover, Christina Mavronas. Christina, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited.
I am very excited that you are here. We're here to talk about your favorite food, but I also just don't want to glaze over the bodega coffee lover. So you gotta tell me what's the love for bodega coffee?
I believe bodega coffee is an art. It's like
Oh,
it's a lost art now. Like, with all the hipsters coming in, I'm like, bodega coffee is just like you go in, you say hello, you shoot the shit a little bit, you see your favorite bodega guy, you tell him what you want. It's within like 2 seconds, what kind of coffee, and he makes it for you. It's either black or regular. And when you get a regular coffee, the way they do it, milk and sugar, it's just like it's nice. And what's gonna happen is you're either gonna love it and you're gonna have a great day, or you're gonna hate it and you're gonna bitch about it, but you're still gonna go about your day. But it's the interaction at the deli. You talk, you have a moment, and it's just like, I don't know, the type of coffee, the type of cup it is. I don't really like going to fancy spot.
mm-hmm.
I just like I love the interaction that comes with a bodega coffee. And
Now, are you black coffee or regular?
I'm a black coffee girl, but when I want to treat
Okay.
myself, I do a regular, and that's
Ooh.
just milk and sugar.
Oh,
I just say not too
yeah.
light, not too sweet, and that's it. Regular. It's basic. If you want it
And they
light,
know. And do you have your regular spot?
yeah. I mean, I have my bodega
Yeah.
guys. I do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So they know
Yeah, but
when they see
any
you
bodega,
coming
I'm
in.
gonna give it a shot.
Yeah. You should just become the mayor of the bodega coffees.
I would love
And every
nothing
time
more.
we can aspire for, we'll manifest this right now. And then when you walk into anywhere, they're going to know who you are and they're going to have your order ready. Wouldn't that be great?
I love that. I love that so much. That's a dream.
I, I will put that into the universe for you and it will live on forever in this podcast episode. Now that I have that answer, we have to talk about your favorite food, Stifado. Why is this your favorite food? What is your relationship to it? Tell me all the things.
So other than it's just banging and it's delicious, okay, it's really really good. But it's a comfort food, and it's usually done more in like the winter and stuff like that. But the reason I love it more than anything else is because me and my father like to make it together. And then, I mean, now my parents have moved back to Greece, but they left New York a little while ago. So I would make it and then tell him if I did something different. And then he would make it. And like, you also put like red wine in it. So he would try different types of red wine and he'd be like, like this wine, not so good. And then next week, like this wine, I like this one. So it's just like I don't know, it's just like a father-daughter thing that we do. And you know, I like the way you make it. You have to be patient with it. You can't stir it. You have to shake it. You have to shimmy it.
Oh, shake
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. You can't
Oh,
stir it because it's like it has the little shallots, the little onion shallots in there. And you don't mix it like that. So you have to shimmy the
aha.
pot and you have to take a lot of time with it. And then you like eat and drink which we eat and drink while we're waiting for food regardless. But I don't know, it's a nice process. And it's usually made with rabbit, but when you don't have rabbit, you do it with beef.
Sure.
Yeah.
And has it always been a dish that has just sort of been ever present growing up? Is there a particular time where you really made a mental note like, whoa, I absolutely love this. This is incredible.
Yeah. So actually, when I first tried it, my uncle gave it to me when I was little. And I remember like I was by the ocean. He was like feeding me and he's like, here, try this. And I ate it and I was like, oh my God, this is the most delicious thing. But I didn't know I was eating rabbit.
Oh.
So there's also
And so
trauma.
what did that do to your psyche? Were you like, that's cool? Or
No, because as
did
a
that
little
concern
kid,
you?
like, because I lived my life both in like New York and Greece. Like I was
Mhm.
privileged enough to like be able to go back and see my family almost every year. And my grandparents, I have a lot of family there. So, I have both mentalities. So it's like there, it's like
Mm.
rabbit, eat it, done. Over here, I'm like, it's a little pet, it's what you haven't
Yeah,
seen.
yeah, yeah.
So I was like traumatized for a second. And I was like, never again. And then I ate it again with beef. And then I made the connection. I was like, oh, and I was fine. it's okay. A little trauma never hurt nobody, right?
Right, it helps us, thrive and get stronger.
Exactly.
Do you personally have preference over one or the other in terms of flavor and texture?
The rabbit, it's so much softer. It's
Yeah?
really, really it's delicious, but the beef is
Okay.
just as nice.
So you'll go either way, it's your favorite anyhow, so however it's coming out, you'll be pretty pleased.
1000%, yes.
Well, to better appreciate and understand our food, we've got to know where it came from. Today, we're diving into the story of Stifado, a Greek classic that has stood the test of time. Picture this: the sun drenched hills of Greece, where olive trees sway gently in the breeze and the air is rich with the scent of herbs. Stifado, the beloved Greek stew, is about as old school as it gets. Its roots can be traced back to ancient Greece, but its modern form owes a debt to the Venetians, who ruled parts of Greece during the Middle Ages. The word Stifado itself comes from the Venetian word stufato, spelled with a U instead of an I, which means stewed. Christina, the name feels respectfully a little redundant. If you were to rebrand it or rename it, what would you choose?
Oh my god, I have to rename it. I don't think I could because it's like I'm also from Kerkira, Corfu, where my father's side, and
Mm,
there is a lot of Italian impression there because of like history. So I feel like I would be doing. I feel like it would be disrespectful to rename it because it kind of is.
okay.
It kind of makes sense.
Yes. It's calling it what it is. It's not making it just how your love for Bodega Coffee. It's nothing fancy. It's just it's keeping its integrity.
Exactly. And you know what?
S
A lot of words come from like the Greek language, so we'll give the Italians this one. We'll just give it to them. They could.
Okay, we won't keep score. Italians, you get one, and but Greeks, you get everything else. Okay, great. Well, stew is all about taking ingredients, usually tougher cuts of meat, hearty veggies, and bold flavors, and simmering them gently until they become tender, flavorful, and spoon worthy. Basically, stewing is an art of patience and letting ingredients do their thing. It's a perfect way to transform simple ingredients into something rich, cozy, and comforting. Turns out, humans have been making stew for thousands of years, long before slow cookers or that fancy Dutch oven you never use. Way back, 20,000 years ago, our prehistoric ancestors figured out that if you toss some meat and veggies into a hollowed out animal hide filled with water and hot stones, you got something tender, warm, and actually edible. Then, around 10,000 BCE, when pottery became a thing, stewing got a whole lot easier. Now, people could let food cook slowly over the fire and not have to eat out of an animal carcass. Fast forward to 3000 BCE, and the Sumerians were already writing down recipes for meat stews on cuneiform tablets. That's right, before TikTok food trends, there were clay tablet recipes. Meanwhile, the Egyptians were whipping up lentil and onion stews, and in ancient Greece, they had hearty, grain-filled versions. By the time the Romans got involved, they were throwing in wine, herbs, and whatever fancy ingredients they could get their hands on. During the Middle Ages, stew was the meal of the masses. Meat, root veggies, and grains all simmered together. This is where classic dishes like the French pot au feu and Spanish olla podrida, which literally means rotten pot, but don't let that throw you off, got their start. Christina, what do you think so far about this evolution of stew?
Oh, I it makes total sense. I love it. And I think like it crosses boundaries. It brings so many different types of diverse people together because it's like it just makes sense. And I think like we as cultures like we just take a little bit from everyone. And
Hmm,
I think that's really beautiful because it's like we each have something to give and we just make something
yeah.
even better. And I think that's really great. I think stew was so popular too because at that time period we didn't have TikTok and all these things to do, and it really was something that we did together. Like the family did together.
Hmm,
Someone would come down the block and like cook together. And like I was in Greece last January with my parents, and like their friends came by and in the kitchen and they're making stew, and we're all just spending quality time there. So I think stew
hmm.
really brings people together because we're all adding things in. It's taking a while. We can all then go do something else while it simmers, have conversations. So I don't know. I think it evolved perfectly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a collaborative effort and communal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, the Venetians introduced stewing with ingredients like tomatoes and onions, which would become Stifado's signature components. But before the tomato, a New World ingredient and subject of a previous Sprung on Food episode that you can check out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, before the tomato arrived in Europe, Stifado was prepared with vinegar and sometimes honey to achieve its signature sweet and sour flavor profile. Christina, have you had a version similar to that before?
I've put vinegar, not honey in, but I've put vinegar when I didn't have red wine. Yeah.
Aha. Okay,
But I
so
haven't heard the honey
adaptable.
before, and that's really cool. So I kind of want to make that now.
Bookmark that for your
Yeah.
next Stifado making. Yes. Now, this early version of the dish showcased the resourcefulness of Greek cooks who used locally available ingredients like wild onions, garlic, and herbs to create bold, aromatic flavors. From the 13th to the 18th century, the Venetians held sway over parts of Greece, including Crete, the Ionian Islands, and the Cyclades. During this period, Venetian culinary techniques and ingredients made their way into Greek kitchens, transforming local dishes. Stifado is a prime example of this cultural exchange. The Venetians' love of stews, combined with Greek ingenuity and access to abundant fresh produce, gave rise to the dish we know and love today. Tomatoes, finally introduced to Europe in the 16th century, eventually became a staple ingredient in Stifado, adding a rich, tangy base to the stew. Alongside the tomatoes, pearl onions emerged as a defining feature of the dish. These small, sweet onions were easy to grow and store, making them a practical choice for home cooks. Christina, do you ever eat pearl onions in any other type of application? Do you like them on their own? Do you put them in anything else? Or are they kind of like,
I've never really had them in anything else other than sifalo, and I
yeah,
refuse to make it if I don't have the little pearl onions.
is that
Yeah,
right?
I
Okay, it's
won't.
that
I'm
it's
like,
that
I'm not gonna put a
necessary.
big onion in there. I'm not desgraciad in honor for the Venetians. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. It's like it's mad rude. I'll make something else.
Wow. Okay. So is it more blasphemy because it just to maintain the integrity of the dish? Is it a flavor thing? Both?
It's both
All of
and a
the
texture
above?
thing too, yeah, because it's like you have the little pearl
Mm.
onion, like you slice it up a little bit like in that like little cross. And if you put a big onion there, it's just gonna dissolve and it's not that
Mm.
same, like it's not. And they're
It's not
sweeter,
the same.
the little red onion, the little pearl onions.
Yes. Okay. So they are crucial. Noted. Well, these pearl onions, they're key here, lending a natural sweetness that caramelizes beautifully during the long, slow cook, as you mentioned. Pearl onions are the tiny but mighty underdogs of the allium world. These little guys, scientifically Allium ampliprasum, are often taken for baby versions of regular onions, but they're actually closer relatives of. Do you want to take a guess of what they are a closer relative of?
I wanna say, well, scallions, no. Give me a hint. Give me a hint.
Okay, grows in the ground.
I like garlic.
Listen, these are not bad guesses. We'll do one more guess.
Don't tell me
So we
potato.
have three. It's not a
Okay.
potato. I will give you absolute brownie points for that, but it is actually closest related to the leek.
I would have never guessed that. I'm over here sitting
Eh,
like I'm good. I would have like failed.
Listen, I don't think this was ever an SAT question. I don't think that this is a normal thing unless you are perhaps a farmer or a
No,
botanist.
my
So
my
it,
studio's like I love plants and stuff. So I was like, what is it? I need to know it.
now you have the trivia whenever that comes up.
Great.
As we commonly know, this is a very popular
Yeah.
question. So next time you'll be prepared.
Watch me go onto like a show or something, and this is a question. I'm gonna be like, oh my God.
If you are on the show, what is it? The Millionaire?
Yeah, if I
What
win
the
money,
hell is
I'm
the
cutting you a
name?
check for this.
Oh, okay. This is recorded. You said it. I wasn't even going to ask that. I was just going to say I would be very
You
proud of
see,
you.
this is what
But I can be very proud of you
grateful.
and take a little bit of money.
Yes.
Yeah, and grateful. Yes, all of the above. Okay, so virtual handshake here. The deal is done. Okay, fabulous. So yes, they're actually closer relatives of leeks. Instead of growing layers like bigger onions, they rock a single storage leaf, kind of like a garlic clove that decided to go solo. The rest of the ingredients of Stifado can vary depending on the region. While We talked about this in your personal preferences. Beef is the most common today. In the Peloponnese, rabbit, Stifado is particularly popular, while in coastal areas, octopus often takes center stage. In Crete, you might even find vegetarian versions made with mushrooms or eggplants. At its heart, Stifado is all about balance, slow cooked with the pearl onions, tomatoes, garlic, and a blend of warm spices like cinnamon, cloves, and bay leaves. A splash of red wine or vinegar adds depth and tang, while olive oil ties it all together. The result, a rich, velvety stew that feels like a hug in a bowl. Stifado is not a dish for the impatient. Traditionally, it's cooked in clay pots or heavy-bottom pans over low heat, allowing the flavors to melt together over several hours. The slow cooking process is key to achieving the dish's signature richness and depth. As the meat becomes tender and the onions soften, the spices release their aromas, filling the kitchen with an irresistible scent.
I'm starving
In
now.
some households,
I'm drooling. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm listening to you
no,
explain all of this. I'm like, I want one now.
your stomach is rumbling. You're like, I gotta FaceTime with my dad so we can make our Stifado. In some households, Stifado is started on the stovetop and finished in the oven, a technique that dates back to the use of communal village ovens. Families would prepare their stews and bake them alongside bread, maximizing the use of precious fuel resources. Stifado isn't just a dish, it's an experience. In Greek households, it's often made for Sunday family dinners, festive occasions, or just as a way to gather everyone around the table. It's served with crusty bread for dipping or over a bed of pasta, rice, or potatoes, depending on the region and family tradition. Were there certain times in your family where you saw this dish in particular pop up? And how were you serving it? Is it on its own? Is it with an accompaniment of a different ingredient?
Yeah, we never did like over rice or anything like that. Like we would have a like rice on the side, but this was
Mm,
on its own with really good bread.
mm.
And
Any particular type of bread?
just we would get we call it the forno, which it's the
Mm,
bakery, and like proper bread, 3-4 ingredients and that's it. So it's like
yeah.
whatever kind, it would be nice. But I remember too, like running around if like the bakery was like too far, like my mom would just get like a big ass Italian bread, and my father would break it and just start dipping it. So it's like any kind of
Yeah.
bread is good, but like when you get that like fresh bread from the bakery, it is
Mm.
just it's so, so good when you're dipping it in there. But yeah, we would have like other sides and everything like that, but this was the main attraction.
Absolutely. And did it show up for holidays, anytime you were just gathering all together, special occasions, or did it just really depend?
It really did depend. I mean, it wasn't one that we would cook mostly for like big occasions.
Mm,
'Cause, like, it would take like, especially, like, when you're in New York and running around and doing things, so it's like but we would when we would go out and, like, Greek restaurants and we saw it, we would get that. We would make it for
mm.
ourselves, like, my father would, make it in the house and, like, try it like so we did cook it, but it wasn't specifically, like it just varied.
Yeah, and whenever you saw it, it was gonna be a great time regardless.
Yes.
And I to your point, I do absolutely agree with you about the bread. When you have a dish like this that does take such, care and time, you don't wanna bastardize it with just some, like, old crusty bread. You want it to be as equally enjoyable and really honor all of the work that you just did, so they should be on par with
Yeah,
each
because
other.
especially when you get that sauce on the bread and the combination of it with it, I'm like, you just taste it even more and it's so good.
Ooh, it's like a little s like a Stevado sponge.
Yes. That's exactly
That's what we're rebranding it as.
By the
It's
sponge.
just known as yes, that's sorry, Italians. Oh, one for the Greeks. That's what we're doing.
See, there we go.
Okay. Well, over time, Staccato has evolved and adapted. In today's fast-paced world, you might find modern versions made in pressure cookers or slow cookers, but the essence remains the same, a hearty communal meal that brings people together. For Greeks living abroad, Staccato serves as a nostalgic connection to their homeland, evoking memories of family gatherings and festive celebrations. In an age of culinary experimentation, Staccato stands as a testament to the power of tradition. It reminds us that great food doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs time, love, and a good story. From its ancient Greek origins to its Venetian influences and modern adaptations, Stifado embodies the spirit of resilience and creativity that defines Greek cuisine. Well, Stifado didn't have its moussaka moment in the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It had a small part in pop culture. There are annual Greek festivals around the country, and you're likely to find Stifado at the Sacramento Greek Festival, which has been around for over 60 years. And in 2020, the newspaper The Guardian highlighted the dish in an article titled "Why Stifado is the Best Food in Greece." Christina, have you attended different Greek festivals? Are there other pop culture references you can think of, or any final words you have?
Pop culture references, no. I feel like a lot of the New York festivals and stuff like that, you don't really see it. It's like it's more like
Hmm.
street meats and like the traditional ones that like everyone can make. And I think again, it's because it does take a lot of time. But I think
How long does it take?
the longer the better.
The longer the better. Okay, so on a low end, like, minimum, and then, like, what would be the longest you think?
I think if I don't have a minimum of 3 hours, and that's like a quick, like, I really want it. I'm fiending for it. I'm like, okay, 3 hours to get as much, but like I'll cook it up to like 8 or 9. It's like
Wow,
a
okay,
soy
yeah.
sauce. Like
It's a
you're doing
full
it
ti
for hours. And I
Oh,
think like as we're talking about it too, I'm just like, oh, it makes sense that I love this dish because it's like in a way I am like my roots, like my New York side. I'm like, let's go, let's hurry up, let's get it done. Like I this should have been done yesterday, you know? And then when I go to Greece, I need a few days to like slow down and embrace the
Mm.
Mediterranean lifestyle and really, and it's like those two worlds really do make a lot of who I am creatively, human like values, like who I am today. And it's interesting that I love Sifada because it does make me slow down, and I do like the simplicity, and I love a balance. Not necessarily that always has to be like this, but in my life, I'm always like, I know life goes like this, and balance really is a big part of me. And as you were saying that, I was just like, oh, that's so interesting. And I just like, I don't know, I love that. Also, I have ADHD, so I can go off and like do my laundry while I'm doing that. So I think,
Yeah, it's so true. It might be the absolute perfect, because there are some dishes that require you to be very present. You cannot walk away,
yeah,
but this allows you to get it started, go do some
do some laundry,
laundry,
shoot the shit,
go
pull
run
out
an
a nut.
errand.
Yeah, like have some wine out in the back.
Yeah.
Like I love that. Like, I love people gathering in the kitchen. I really do.
Is there such thing as too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to something like this, or the more the merrier? Uh-oh.
I think,
Uh-oh. Did I strike a nerve?
well, I think there is such a thing as, yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen,
Okay.
but I also love it because it's very comedic when there's Greeks and being like, no, 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 like this. And then at some point you see who's top dog, and then all the other ones
Mm.
become like sous chef type thing. So it's like it balances out at some point. You have some chaos in there. You know what I mean? You might have like a little like, oh, go, what are you doing? That's not how you do it. And then someone's gonna be like, I give up. And then the person's gonna like own it and be like, okay, now everyone's gotta follow my
How does the hierarchy usually work? Is it based on, like, seniority, or is do people just sort of recognize, "Oh,
you
this is the one
recognize.
in charge."
Usually it is seniority
Oh,
because people, the older folks, that's, they do know a lot more of this. And especially like when it's like,
right.
but it is, they recognize if someone knows, someone knows. It doesn't matter if you're man or woman. Like if someone knows how to make a sifado or
Yeah,
anything, like they're going to be like, he knows, you know?
and it becomes, known and appreciated and respected, and then that person can then sort of steer the ship, right?
Yeah.
And tell everybody else, like, "Here's where I need help. Here's where I don't.
Yeah, like my
Please,
my father
respectfully
was
kick rocks."
the ship steerer, and then when we went,
Uh-huh.
back to Greece and stuff like that, and they made these like new friends. This older woman was like, "You don't know shit," and he was like, "Okay."
If you're not making it, here on your own, are there any local spots that you've seen it on the menu, had it, that you love? Are there any go-to places for you?
I like I think that's one of my biggest like grievances is I don't see it as much. But if I can
Mm,
recall, I think I might be wrong. You can Google it after, and we could, you can
okay.
confirm it. But I
I
think,
will report back,
yeah, I
yes.
think Agnadi in Astoria, they used to have one in Bay Ridge too, but I think they
Mm,
might have it. I'm not 100%,
okay.
But regardless, that's a
Okay.
great restaurant. They have great food.
Okay. They have your stamp of
Yes.
approval. And then we should petition for some more, Greek restaurants to put it on the menu just selfishly just so you can go and have
Yeah,
it
or like
also.
in Seinfeld, the soup guy, we should have like
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we should just have a guy
Oh.
that's just like, you know, "Stifado soup for you? No stifado soup for you."
Can this Listen, I don't wanna put the pressure on you, but can this be like a bit, a little sketch that you do?
You know what?
A character?
Yes, I'm actually that was great. Let's see what I could create from that. That would be so funny.
Oh, I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm
I
patiently
need a Greek
waiting
chef.
for
Holler at me. We can collaborate.
I think that there are some out there, maybe even the restaurant that you shouted out.
That would be so
This
fun.
could be good. This could be
Look
great.
at this.
Oh,
Look at us
okay.
working. Look at us working.
I know. See, we're manifesting, we're putting things out there. It's amazing. Things are happening, and I cannot wait to see them come to fruition. Christina, thank you so much for joining me to talk about your favorite food, Stefano, and helping me share its story.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for all of the I learned so much too just listening to this, and it just I'm so proud of my culture. And I love that we did this.
Thanks for watching. You can find links and more info in the description below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. See you next time.